The wind moved slowly across the empty plains of the moon called Arvin. Dust floated in the weak light and the ground looked like a sea of gray stones. Far above, the broken remains of an old war satellite still circled in silence. For most people, Arvin was only a name from history, but for one man it was now home. Rian worked alone near the ruins of an ancient communication tower. His uniform was torn at the edges and his tools were scratched from years of use. Every day he checked the same readings and repaired the same wires. The humans had won the last war with the alien race called the Virine, but victory brought little joy. The two sides now lived in a fragile peace, one that could break at any mistake. Ryan had been sent here to restore contact with the nearby outposts before something worse began. His base was small, built from metal containers and solar panels. He had only a few machines for company, a cleaning drone that never spoke and a scanner that blinked when the signal grew stronger. Every sound felt louder than it should be. He had lived here for 5 months and could count the number of times he had spoken to another human. Silence had become his only friend. That morning, Ryan walked out with his scanner in hand. The screen showed a flicker far to the east. It was strange because nothing should be alive there. He frowned, checked the batteries, and looked again. The signal was real. A pulse of energy repeated every few seconds. It could be a leftover beacon from the war, or it could be something worse. Still, Rian was curious. He packed his tools, started his rover, and drove toward the source. The journey across Arvin's surface was slow. The wheels threw up dust that hung in the thin air. Mountains in the distance looked like black teeth under a weak sun. Ryan kept his eyes on the scanner, following the faint signal. Hours passed before he reached a crater that glowed slightly with reflected light. He parked the rover at the edge and walked down carefully. The signal grew stronger with each step. At the bottom of the crater, half buried under gray dust, was a small ship. Its hull was smooth and silver, unlike any human design. Ryan's chest tightened when he saw the mark on the side. The Virine crest. The enemy. He had fought them before, though only from a distance. The peace agreement forbade any contact with Virine soldiers, but the scanner showed a life sign inside the wreck. He hesitated. The right thing would be to report it, but his radio could not reach the command center from this distance. If he waited, whoever was inside might die. Rian took a deep breath and climbed onto the wreck. The metal felt cold even through his gloves. He found a narrow opening and pulled it wider with his tools. Inside the small cabin, lights blinked weakly. The air smelled of burned circuits, and in the center seat sat a figure wearing shining armor and a closed headgear. The figure's chest moved slowly, showing that it was still alive. Virine, Ryan whispered to himself. He had never seen one up close. Their faces were always hidden behind masks in the war reports. Some said they had no eyes. Others said they looked just like humans, but brighter. Ryan didn't know what to believe. The scanner beeped again. The life sign was weakening. Ryan looked around the broken cabin. No one else was coming. He knew what the rules said, but something inside him refused to leave the being to die. He connected a portable oxygen pack to the ship's air valve and checked the pulse through the armor. It was slow but steady. He pressed the emergency release on the seat harness and carefully lifted the alien out. The body felt lighter than a human's. He carried it to his rover and laid it across the back seat. As he drove toward his base, he looked again at the still figure. The armor had marks of high rank, maybe a leader. A strange thought came to his mind. Why would someone so important travel alone? When he reached the base, Ryan moved quickly. He placed the alien on a clean table and started the medical scanner. The device identified 2 hearts, different oxygen needs, and a stable rhythm returning. That was a good sign. He took off the outer layer of the armor, leaving the headgear untouched. It seemed sealed by advanced tech that he could not open without the alien's consent. He sat beside the table, staring at the still figure. "What am I doing?" he muttered. "Helping the one we fought for years." But deep down, he knew why. The war had taken too much. He had lost friends and family to battles that made no sense. If he could save even one life now, maybe it would make a small difference. Hours passed. The alien began to move. Ryan stood ready, his hand near the emergency stun device just in case. The alien's hand twitched, then the head turned slightly. A soft sound came through the helmet, almost like a sigh. Then a voice, calm and melodic, spoke in a tone that surprised him. "Where am I?" Ryan stepped closer. "You are safe. You crashed on Arvin. I found your ship." The alien turned its head toward him. A human, it said softly. You should have left me. I couldn't, Ryan replied. You were dying. There was a pause. The alien raised a hand slowly as if testing the air. You repaired the air system. Yes, why? Ryan hesitated. Because it was the right thing to do. The alien stayed silent for a moment, then spoke again. I am Princess Lura of Vereen. I was not part of your war. My ship was attacked by raiders. They destroyed my escort. I did not think I would survive, Ryan blinked. A princess, alone? Why were you here? Lura's helmet turned slightly away. I came to discuss peace, to stop another war before it began. Ryan felt a strange pull in his chest. He had dreamed of peace for years, but hearing those words from a Vereen made it feel real. You came to meet humans? Yes, but they never arrived. I think the raiders wanted to stop us. He nodded slowly. It made sense. There were groups on both sides that wanted the war to continue. Peace would take away their power. Then you are lucky I found you. Lura's voice softened. Perhaps it is you who are lucky, human. My people may think you captured me. Ryan gave a small smile. Then we should make sure they know I didn't. He helped her sit up and brought water from his supplies. She couldn't drink it without removing her helmet, so she refused politely. Ryan respected that. Instead, he checked her wounds. They were minor, mostly bruises and burns from the crash. He worked carefully, avoiding the sealed parts of her armor. When he was done, he stepped back and said, You should rest. You are safe here for now. Lura tilted her head. And you? What will you do if your people find out you helped me? Ryan looked at the floor. I don't know. Maybe they will call me a traitor, but I don't care. That answer seemed to surprise her. Humans are strange, she said quietly. Maybe, Ryan replied. But not all of us want war. Silence filled the room again, but it was a different kind of silence now. It no longer felt empty. Ryan sat by the window, looking at the gray landscape of Arvin. Lura remained on the table, her head slightly turned toward him, the soft glow of her armor reflecting off the metal walls. He wondered what her face looked like beneath that shining headgear. Was she as alien as the stories said? Or was she closer to human than anyone imagined? He decided it didn't matter. For now, all that mattered was that she lived, and maybe that meant something for both their worlds. As the lights dimmed and the cold night of Arvin covered the base, Ryan checked the scanner one last time. No new signals. The world outside was quiet again, but inside that small shelter something had begun, a fragile connection between two enemies who no longer wanted to fight. Morning came slowly on the moon, Arvin. The weak sunlight touched the metal walls of Ryan's small shelter, and the cold air filled the quiet room. Ryan opened his eyes and listened to the gentle hum of the machines. For a moment he forgot the events of the night before. Then he turned his head and saw the alien lying on the table. The memory came back at once. The crashed ship, the strange armor, and the calm voice that had called itself Princess Lura of Vereen. She had not moved much through the night. The scanner beside her showed a steady rhythm of life. Ryan walked over and checked the oxygen flow connected to her armor. It was stable. He took a deep breath and tried to focus on his duties, but his mind kept returning to the fact that a living Vereen was sleeping under his roof. He made himself a cup of heated liquid from the small food unit and sat by the control console. The screen showed fragments of data from the crashed ship. The black box had recorded energy pulses that did not match any known weapon used by humans or Vereen. That meant Lura had been telling the truth. Her ship was not destroyed by either side of the old war. Someone else had done it, and that someone was still out there. As he studied the data, he heard movement behind him, the sound of metal brushing against metal. Ryan turned and saw Lura slowly sitting up. She moved carefully, her hand steady, her silver armor catching the light. The headgear still covered her face, but the soft blue glow from its visor made her look almost peaceful. Ryan stood up. How do you feel? Her voice came through the helmet, calm but tired. Better than before. Your medicine worked. You are a skilled human. I try, he said, feeling unsure of what to say next. Your body needs rest, but your readings look normal. You were lucky. Lura looked around the small room. This place is simple but safe. Are you alone here? Yes, I have been alone for months. My job is to repair the old communication system. I did not expect to find anyone alive on this moon, especially not you. She nodded slowly. I did not expect to be found either. I thought I would die in that crater. Ryan looked at her armor again. You said you were a princess. Why were you traveling by yourself? She paused before answering. I was not alone when I began. There were guards and pilots. My mission was peaceful. I was to meet human envoys and discuss a future agreement. But someone did not want peace. My escort was attacked, my ship was separated from the group, and I crashed here. I sent a distress signal, but it seems no one received it. Rian remembered the energy readings. They were strong enough to draw attention. If you sent a signal, others might come. Maybe soon. Laura looked toward the window. Perhaps. But I am not sure who will come first, my people or those who attacked me. Ryan leaned against the wall. Then we should prepare for both. She tilted her head slightly. You speak as if you would help me. I already did, he replied simply. I cannot stop now. There was a short silence. Laura touched her helmet and a small part of the visor lifted, revealing faint light from within. Ryan caught a glimpse of soft movement, maybe her eyes, but it closed again. You risk much by helping me, she said. If your commanders learn of this, you could be punished. I know, Ryan said. But I'm tired of people being punished for doing what is right. Her head turned toward him again. You speak with a soldier's heart, but also with a kind one. Ryan smiled faintly. I stopped being a soldier long ago. Now I fix things. Perhaps that is what peace needs, Laura said. Someone who fixes instead of breaks. The words stayed with him. He watched her stand slowly and walk a few steps. She was taller than he expected, graceful in every motion. The air shimmered slightly around her suit, showing a faint protective field. The technology was far beyond what humans used. He asked carefully, Can you remove your armor? It might help you recover faster. She shook her head. The atmosphere of this moon is harsh for my body. The armor keeps me balanced. Also, trust must grow slowly. You may understand this, Ryan nodded. I do. She walked to the small window and looked out. The gray land stretched endlessly. Your world must be far from here, she said. It is, he replied. Blue and full of oceans. I've not seen it for years. Do you miss it? Every day. For a long time, they both looked out in silence. The emptiness of Arvin seemed endless, but in that small room it felt less lonely than before. Later that day, Ryan prepared the generator for full power. He needed to check if he could send a long-range message. While he worked, Laura watched him with quiet interest. She asked questions about his tools, about the structure of human machines, and about the materials used. Her curiosity was clear, and Ryan found himself explaining everything in simple terms. It felt strange but pleasant to talk to someone who wanted to learn rather than fight. When the generator began to hum, Laura stepped closer. Your technology is direct. It values strength over balance, she observed. Ryan laughed softly. That is one way to say it. We build things that work, even if they are ugly. There is beauty in simplicity, she said. The Vereen often forget that. He looked at her visor. You speak as if you do not agree with your own people. I agree with what is true, she replied. War has blinded many of us. My father believes peace with humans is possible. That is why he sent me. But the council does not trust easily. They see only the past. Rian tightened a bolt on the machine and said, It's the same with us. Too many people remember the battles and forget the reasons. Laura placed a hand over the metal table. Then perhaps peace needs those who can remember hope instead. As evening approached, Ryan finished his work and tested the transmitter. A small static sound came through. The signal was weak but working. He smiled with relief. It's alive again, he said. We can send a message. Laura stepped closer. If you send one now, your people may come and take me. They will not listen to my story. He thought for a moment. She was right. The humans might see only a captured enemy. Then we wait, he said, until we know more. You trust easily, she said. Not easily, Ryan replied. But you have not given me a reason not to. Her voice grew soft. That is rare among humans. Ryan turned off the generator and looked around his small base. It is rare among Vireen too, I think. She nodded slowly. Perhaps. Yet trust is the only bridge between fear and peace. As the light dimmed, Ryan shared food packets with her. She could not eat human food, but she analyzed the ingredients with her device and shared some of her own nutrient capsules. The taste was strange, but not bad. They talked about their worlds, about cities and oceans, about the stars they both saw from different skies. Laura spoke of her homeworld, Vereen Prime, where forests glowed at night and the air shimmered with silver mist. Ryan told her about Earth, where water danced on beaches and rain sang on rooftops. Each story made the distance between them smaller. It was still strange for him to sit beside a Vereen, yet it no longer felt dangerous. He began to see her not as an enemy, but as someone real, someone who wanted the same peace he did. Later, when the power lights faded to night mode, Ryan said quietly, "You should rest again." "I will keep watch." Lura stood still for a moment. "Why would you watch over me? I am not your kind." He met her gaze through the glowing visor. "Because you are alive, and that is enough reason." She did not answer for a moment, then said softly, "You are not like other humans I have met." Ryan smiled slightly. "Maybe you have not met many." "Perhaps," she said. "Still, I'm glad it was you who found me." He looked at her armor as she lay down again. "I am glad too." The night grew quiet once more. Outside, the wind carried dust across the plains, whispering through the cracks of the shelter. Inside, two beings from different worlds shared the same silence. Neither knew what tomorrow would bring, but something had already begun to change between them. The old fear of the enemy was slowly fading, replaced by something gentler, something that felt like understanding. As Rian watched the small lights on the monitor, he noticed a faint movement on the edge of the radar. It was distant but moving closer. He leaned forward to check again. The signal was weak but real. Ships were entering Arvin's orbit. He looked back at Lura, sleeping quietly. For the first time in months, he felt both hope and fear at once. The peace between their worlds might depend on what happened next. The warning signal flashed again on Ryan's screen. The radar showed several moving dots at the edge of Arvin's orbit. Each dot carried a faint energy signature that did not match any known human code. His first thought was that it could be Vereen ships searching for their lost princess. But something about the pattern felt wrong. The movement was too random, too uncoordinated. Whoever they were, they did not come in peace. Rian stood quietly for a moment, thinking about what to do. His orders were clear: report any unknown activity. But his radio could not reach command yet, and sending a message might expose the base's location. He turned and looked at Lura. She was still resting, her breathing calm and steady inside her armor. The soft light from her visor reflected off the metal walls, making the small shelter look alive. He walked closer and said, "Lura, wake up. We have a problem." Her head lifted quickly. "What happened?" Ryan pointed to the radar screen. "Multiple ships entering orbit. Not human, not Vereen. Their energy pattern is different." Lura rose to her feet and moved beside him. She studied the screen through her visor. "Those are raider signals. They attacked my ship. They must have tracked the distress pulse." "Raiders," Ryan repeated quietly. "I've heard stories. Pirates who steal from both sides." "They do worse than steal," Lura said. "They feed on fear. If they find me alive, they will use me to restart the war." Ryan frowned. "Then we can't let them find you." "They will scan for life signs," she warned. "Your base is too close to my wreck. They will find the energy trace soon." Ryan took a deep breath. "Then we move before they land." She turned toward him. "Move where?" "There's an old mining tunnel north of here," he said. "It's deep under the surface. My maps show it's still stable. We can hide there." Lura nodded once. "Then we must go quickly." Ryan grabbed his gear and powered down the main systems to avoid detection. The lights dimmed until only the faint emergency glow remained. He handed Lura a spare oxygen pack. "This will help if your suit filter fails." She accepted it without a word. Together they stepped out into the cold wind of Arvin. The gray horizon stretched endlessly. Above them, faint dots of fire appeared in the sky as ships began entering the atmosphere. Ryan climbed into the rover and Lura sat beside him. The engine hummed softly as they drove across the empty plains. The journey felt tense and silent. Dust swirled behind them like a ghostly trail. Ryan kept checking the scanner on the dashboard. The radar signals grew stronger. They had landed not far from the crash site. He imagined dark ships with sharp wings and scavengers in worn armor searching through wreckage. If they found the base, they would see the signs of human tools and footprints. They would know someone had been there. Lura spoke after a long silence. "You are risking your life for me, human. You do not even know if my people will thank you." "I'm not doing it for thanks," Rian said. "I'm doing it because it's right." "You keep saying that," she said softly. "Right and wrong. Do humans always think in such clear lines? Not always, he replied. But when you live alone for too long, you start seeing things more clearly. She was quiet for a moment. Then I hope your clarity will guide us safely. They drove for nearly an hour until the mountains rose in the distance. The entrance to the old mine appeared as a dark opening between tall rocks. The metal frame around it was rusted but strong enough to hold. Ryan parked the rover inside and activated a small lantern. The tunnel stretched deep into the ground. Cold air drifted out, carrying the smell of old dust and forgotten machines. This will do, Ryan said. They won't scan this deep. Laura stepped inside carefully. It feels ancient. It is, Ryan said. Humans mined here long before the war. Now only silence remains. They moved deeper into the tunnel until the light from the entrance faded. Ryan found a dry corner near an old mining cart and set up a small energy heater. The warmth spread slowly, easing the chill. He watched Laura sit across from him, her armor glowing faintly in the dark. For a moment it felt almost peaceful again. But the peace did not last long. The communicator on Ryan's wrist beeped softly. He checked it and saw that the radar on the rover had picked up movement nearby. Raiders were approaching the crater. He could see 3 ships on the screen, each releasing smaller hovercraft. They're at your crash site, Ryan said quietly. Laura's tone remained calm but firm. They will search for life signs. When they find none, they will spread out. We have little time. Ryan adjusted the scanner. We can block our life signs using the mine's energy field. The rocks here have heavy minerals that interfere with sensors, but we must stay deep, Laura nodded. Then we wait. They sat in the darkness, listening to distant sounds from the surface. Every now and then the ground shook slightly. It was the vibration of engines or explosions far above. Ryan imagined the raiders tearing through his small base, finding the empty rooms, the half-eaten food packs, and the powered-down machines. He hoped they would believe he had fled long ago. Hours passed. Ryan's eyes grew heavy, but he stayed alert. Laura had not moved for a long time, sitting silently like a statue. Then she spoke softly. You should rest, human. You cannot fight tired. He looked at her. I'll rest when we're safe. Her voice was calm. If we survive this, what will you do? Ryan thought for a moment. Go back to my people, I guess. Maybe finish repairing the towers. Maybe they'll listen if I tell them what happened here. You would tell them you met a Vereen princess? Yes. Maybe they'll understand that not all Vereen are enemies. She tilted her head slightly. And if they don't believe you? Then I'll keep trying, he said. That's what humans do. We keep trying. Laura's tone softened. You sound like my father. He used to say that strength is not in power but in endurance. Smart man, Ryan said with a small smile. He is wise, she replied. But wisdom often comes too late, the quiet returned. Then a faint sound echoed from deeper in the tunnel, a slow grinding noise like metal scraping against stone. Ryan raised his weapon. Stay back, they both listened. The sound grew louder. It was not from the raiders. It was something inside the mine. Ryan moved forward carefully, holding his lantern high. He saw old mining drones half buried in dust. One of them suddenly twitched. Its lights flickered, then it moved a rusted arm toward him. It's just a maintenance unit, Ryan said, lowering his weapon. The energy pulse must have reactivated it. The drone scanned him, then scanned Laura. Its system was too old to recognize alien life. It beeped and rolled away into the darkness, leaving them alone again. When Ryan returned, Laura stood near the heater. Your machines never die, she said. Neither do yours, he replied. You still walk after crashing from the sky. She gave a faint sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps we are both hard to break. Ryan looked at the flickering heater. Let's hope so. Time moved slowly. The raiders stayed on the moon for 2 days. During that time, Ryan and Laura hid in the mine, sharing stories of their worlds and memories of quieter times. She told him about her people's belief that light and life were connected, that to destroy another being's light was to dim your own. Ryan told her about Earth's long history of wars and peace, of mistakes and recoveries. Each story brought them closer. They were no longer soldier and enemy, but 2 survivors sharing warmth in the cold. Ryan found himself listening not just with curiosity but with respect. Laura's words carried kindness even when she spoke of loss. Her voice made the dark cave feel brighter. On the 3rd morning, Ryan's scanner beeped again. He checked it and smiled. The raiders are leaving. Laura looked at him. You are sure? Yes, their ships are lifting off. The radar shows their engines moving out of orbit. She exhaled softly, a sound of relief. Then we survived. For now, he said. But they'll come back if they think you're still alive. Then we must find a way to reach my people before they do, she said. They must know the truth, Ryan nodded. The tower I was fixing can send a long-range message. If we can reach it, maybe we can contact both sides. Then that is our next step, she said firmly. Ryan began packing his tools. We'll leave when night falls. The raiders' sensors will be gone by then. Laura walked toward the tunnel entrance and looked at the faint light outside. You humans are strange, she said softly. You face danger with so little fear. He smiled. Maybe we're just good at pretending. She turned to him. Pretending or not, it gives courage. And courage can change worlds. As the wind howled faintly outside, Rian looked at her silver armor glowing in the dark and felt something new stirring inside him. It was not fear or duty, but respect, maybe even admiration. Two enemies hiding together under the ground, dreaming of peace that might never come, yet somehow it felt possible now. That night, as the stars shone faintly over Arvin, Ryan and Laura prepared to leave the mine. Their journey toward hope had just begun, but both knew the shadows of war still followed close behind. Night fell on the gray plains of Arvin, and a soft breeze carried the dust across the empty landscape. The stars glimmered weakly above, distant and silent, as if watching the tiny events unfolding below. Ryan adjusted the controls on the rover, checking the scanner again. The tower he had repaired the day before hummed softly, its long-range transmitter powered and ready. Tonight they would attempt to send the message that could reach both humans and Vereen fleets. But first, they had to cross the final stretch of dangerous terrain to reach it. Laura stood beside him, her silver armor catching faint light from the rover's headlights. She moved gracefully despite the tight fit of the armor. Her headgear reflected the faint starlight, hiding her face completely. Ryan had seen her expression only through the visor's glow. He wondered what lay behind it. The eyes, the features, the true emotion. Something told him that one day he would know. We must move carefully, she said softly. The raiders may return if they detect the signal. Even faint energy can attract them. I know, Ryan replied. We will reach the tower without stopping. Stay close. The journey across the rocky terrain was slow. Loose stones slid under the rover's wheels, and the steep hills forced them to navigate carefully. Dust rose behind them, swirling in the pale light of Arvin's twin moons. Silence stretched around them, broken only by the hum of the engine and occasional mechanical clicks from Laura's suit. Hours passed. Ryan's focus never wavered, his hands steady on the controls. He glanced at Laura occasionally. She remained quiet, her head slightly turned toward the horizon. He felt the same tension he always carried before a storm, the kind that comes when danger is near but not visible. They were vulnerable, yet determined. Finally, the ruined tower appeared ahead. It rose from the ground like a broken sentinel, its metal frame corroded but still functional. The long antenna reached toward the sky, faintly glowing from the energy flowing through it. Ryan parked the rover near the entrance. He cut the engine and switched on the portable lights. Shadows stretched across the structure, giving it the feeling of an ancient fortress guarding secrets long forgotten. This is it, Ryan said. We only have one chance to get this right. Laura moved beside him, scanning the tower. It is unstable. Any mistake could damage the transmitter. I know, he replied. But I have repaired it. It will work if we follow the plan. They climbed carefully into the tower. Dust fell from the ceiling as they moved, and the sound echoed faintly through the hollow metal. Ryan's hands worked quickly, adjusting the main controls while Laura examined the energy conduits that powered the system. The tower responded to their efforts, lights blinking to show the flow of power. It was a delicate dance, human skill and alien technology working together. As the final connection hummed into place, the ground beneath them shivered slightly. Ryan froze. Did you feel that? Laura's visor turned toward him. Yes, something approaches. Through the tower's reinforced windows, faint lights appeared in the distance. Small raider hovercraft moved across the plains, scanning for life. Their engines threw dust high into the air, reflecting faintly in the moon's glow. Ryan tightened his grip on the console. The raiders were close, but for now, they had not detected the tower itself. "We must hurry," Lura said. "They will find us soon." Ryan nodded. He adjusted the transmitter settings to maximum. The long-range signal would reach both human and Vereen fleets, carrying the message that Lura was alive and that the raiders were still a threat. If the message succeeded, reinforcements would arrive, and their worlds might finally have a chance at peace. As the signal began to broadcast, a sudden explosion rocked the ground beneath the tower. Dust and debris filled the air. Ryan grabbed a support beam to keep his balance. "They found us!" he shouted. Lura moved quickly, scanning the system. "The tower is stable, but the entrance is breached. We must defend it." Ryan activated the turret mounted on the tower platform. Its automated sensors tracked the approaching raiders. Blue energy beams fired from the weapon, striking the small hovercraft and sending them spinning into the dust. The raiders were persistent, but the tower's defenses, combined with Ryan and Lura's teamwork, held them off. Through the chaos, Lura spoke calmly. "Ryan, the transmitter is nearly complete. Focus on sending the signal. I will cover us." He nodded and returned his attention to the console. Fingers flying over the controls, he activated the full energy output. A beam of data shot into the sky, carrying the message across space. Both human and Vereen fleets would receive it. Hope felt fragile but real. Then another blast struck the tower, shaking the structure violently. Ryan lost his footing, sliding toward the edge of the platform. Lura reached out and grabbed his arm, pulling him back. He looked up at her, and for the first time she removed her headgear. The visor lifted smoothly, revealing her face. Ryan froze. Her features were unlike anything he had imagined. Her skin shimmered faintly, patterned with luminous lines that glowed softly in the darkness. Her eyes were large and deep, reflecting both fear and determination. Her hair, silver and flowing, framed a face that was delicate yet strong. She looked at him, not with armor or visor between them, but fully herself, vulnerable and real. "Ryan," she said softly, her voice calm despite the danger. "Are you all right?" He could not speak at first. His mind struggled to process the sight. Then he whispered almost without thinking. "Beautiful." She froze, her eyes widening in surprise. For a moment, the noise of the battle and the flashing lights seemed to fade. She had never heard such a word directed at her, not from a human, not from anyone. She felt a warmth, strange and comforting, rising inside her chest. It was a connection she did not expect, a bridge across the emptiness of their worlds. "Do you really mean that?" she asked quietly, almost afraid to believe it. Ryan nodded, his voice steady now. "I mean it. You are beautiful." The words hung in the air, simple but heavy with meaning. Lura's face softened, and for the first time, she allowed herself to relax, even in the middle of the battle. She realized that Ryan saw her not as a soldier, not as a princess, not as an alien, but as someone alive, someone real. The sound of raiders' engines brought them back to reality. Ryan looked at the console. The signal was still broadcasting, but the tower trembled with each blast. "We need to move," he shouted. "Now." Lura nodded. "Follow me. The lower tunnels can take us deeper." They ran toward the stairs leading down, dodging falling debris and sparks from damaged wiring. Ryan grabbed a fallen support beam and used it to shield them from a stray blast. Lura moved swiftly, her glowing patterns illuminating the path. They descended into the safety of the deeper tunnels, leaving the chaos behind. Once they were below ground, the silence returned. Dust hung in the air, and the faint hum of the tower above was barely audible. Ryan leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Lura stood beside him, still glowing softly in the dim light. "You said it," she said quietly. "The word, beautiful. I did not think anyone would ever see me that way." "I did not think I would either," Ryan admitted. "But seeing you now, I cannot lie." She gave a small, almost shy smile. "Then perhaps there is hope yet. Not just for me, but for both our worlds." He looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time, not just her alien features, but her strength, her courage, her heart. "We survived tonight," he said. "We will survive the rest together." For the first time since the crash, Lura removed her gloves and touched his shoulder lightly. It was a small gesture, but it carried trust and understanding. They were no longer human and alien, soldier and princess. They were two beings fighting for survival, for truth and for hope. Above them, the raiders continued their assault, but below the ground, Ryan and Lura shared a moment of peace. It was fragile, but it was real. And for the first time, Ryan understood that courage was not just in fighting battles, but in seeing the heart of another being and acknowledging it. Hours later, the distant hum of approaching ships could be heard faintly. Both human and Vereen reinforcements were responding to the message. Ryan and Lura prepared themselves to leave the tunnels and face the surface once more, stronger and united. The battle was not yet over, but the bond between them had changed the course of the night. Lura adjusted her armor and smiled faintly. "I have never trusted so quickly," she admitted. "I have," Ryan said with a small laugh. "But sometimes the right choice is the hardest." She looked at him, the glow in her pattern softening. "Then we are both human in that sense." He smiled. "And perhaps that is enough." The shadows of war still moved over Arvin, but in the heart of a ruined tower and in the depth of a dark tunnel, hope glowed brighter than any fear. The reveal of Lura's true self had changed everything, not just between them, but for the future of two worlds that could finally begin to understand each other. The first pale light of Arvin's twin moons stretched across the plains, casting long shadows over the gray dust and jagged rocks. Ryan and Lura emerged from the tunnels cautiously, stepping onto the surface where the battle from the night before had left its marks. Craters and twisted metal littered the ground, evidence of the raiders' assault and their own fight for survival. Despite the destruction, a sense of hope lingered. The long-range signal had been sent and the reinforcements were on their way. Rian scanned the horizon. The approaching ships were faint points of light at first, but gradually grew larger as they came closer. Some were human craft, sleek and practical in design. Others bore the graceful curves of Vereen vessels, their silver hulls reflecting the faint moons. Both fleets were responding to the distress signal, drawn together not by war but by the urgent need to protect the princess and restore order. For the first time, Rian realized the message had worked exactly as intended. "They are coming," he said softly, not taking his eyes off the horizon. Lura adjusted her armor, standing tall beside him. "We must be ready to signal them where we are. We cannot let the raiders find us again." Ryan nodded. "The tower survived. We can use its systems to guide them." He moved toward the ruined structure, Lura following closely. The tower still stood, its frame scarred and bent, but the transmitter hummed steadily. Ryan tapped the console, sending an encrypted signal to guide the fleets. Above, the first wave of reinforcements arrived, scanning the landscape and adjusting their approach to avoid debris and craters. Slowly, both human and Vereen ships touched down on Arvin's surface, deploying troops to secure the area. As the reinforcements spread across the plains, the raiders, sensing their advantage slipping, attempted a hasty retreat. Small ships lifted from the ground, their engines sputtering and uneven. Blue energy beams from the tower and defensive human units struck them, forcing the raiders into a narrow escape path. One by one, the raider ships lifted off, disappearing into the sky, leaving behind the still gray plains and a tense silence. Ryan and Lura watched the retreating enemies, exhaustion heavy in their bodies. Lura finally exhaled. "They are gone. For now. For now," Ryan repeated, feeling a sense of relief he hadn't known in months. "But the fleets are here. We should meet them." They moved toward the first arriving ships where both human soldiers and Vereen emissaries disembarked. Ryan saw the cautious expressions on the faces of human commanders: surprise, disbelief, and curiosity. They had received reports of a Vereen princess surviving a raid, but seeing her alive beside a human who had protected her was another matter entirely. A tall Vereen officer approached, his silver armor shining in the weak light. He stopped when he saw Lura. "Princess Lura," he said formally, bowing slightly. "We have received your signal." Lura straightened. "I am unharmed thanks to this human," she said, nodding toward Rian. He saved my life and guided me safely here. The Vereen officer's eyes widened slightly, then softened. You speak the truth. He risked much. We are in your debt. Rian felt a flush rise to his cheeks. He was unaccustomed to praise, especially from the Vereen. I only did what was right, he said quietly. No one should die if it can be prevented. Laura turned to him, her eyes reflecting gratitude and warmth. You showed courage not only in action but in heart. That is rare. Humans began to gather as well, led by a commander who had finally arrived from the outpost. He studied Ryan for a moment, suspicion in his eyes. You are the engineer who reported the life sign? He asked. Ryan nodded. Yes. I found the princess and helped her survive. The commander's expression shifted from doubt to careful understanding. And you did not harm her? You protected her? I did, Ryan confirmed. We were alone and there was no other choice. The human commander looked to the Vereen emissaries who nodded in agreement. Slowly, tension began to ease between the two sides. The proof was in front of them. A human and a Vereen princess working together, standing alive and unharmed. It was impossible to ignore the significance of the moment. Laura approached the gathered humans. My people have feared war with yours for years, she said, her voice clear and melodic. But I survived because one human chose kindness over conflict. If we allow hatred to guide us, it will destroy both our worlds. But if we choose understanding, perhaps peace is possible. Rian watched her speak. He had known her words were true, but hearing them in front of both fleets made him realize the weight of what they had done. Their survival was more than luck. It was proof that trust could cross the boundaries of species, history, and fear. As the day brightened, discussions began between human and Vereen leaders. Rian remained close to Laura, helping her navigate the technical details of the tower and the local terrain. The raiders had been forced to retreat, and both fleets worked quickly to secure the area and repair any remaining damage. But the real work was just beginning, the work of communication, diplomacy, and understanding. Laura took Ryan aside, away from the busy soldiers and emissaries. You saved me, she said softly, not only from the raiders but from fear. You saw me as I am, not as an enemy. Ryan looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. And you trusted me, he replied. That matters just as much. Without your trust, I could not have done it. She smiled faintly, a gesture that felt warm in the cold air. Then perhaps trust is stronger than any weapon. They stood together, looking out across the plains. The gray dust glimmered faintly under the rising light, and the fleets continued their work. Ryan felt a quiet pride in what they had accomplished. Two species, once enemies, had found common ground. It was fragile, yes, but it existed, and that was enough for now. The human commander approached, nodding toward Ryan. You will be recognized for your actions, he said. Not many would risk their life for an alien, especially a Vereen princess. You have shown what humanity can be. Ryan shrugged slightly. I only did what I hoped anyone would do. Laura placed a hand lightly on his arm. You have shown more than that, she said. You have shown that peace is possible, that courage can take many forms, not just in battle, but in choices, in heart, and in kindness. Rian looked at her, truly seeing her again, and not through the helmet, not through the visor, but the real person standing before him. Then maybe hope is possible too, he said quietly. Laura nodded. Yes, hope is possible. The day grew brighter, and the towers of both fleets reflected the new light, signaling a future that was uncertain but promising. Laura and Ryan stood together, human and Vereen, survivor and protector, friend and ally. Their journey had begun with a crash, a moment of trust and a shared goal to survive. Now it had become something greater, a symbol of unity that could inspire both their peoples. As the reinforcements secured the plains and repaired the tower, Laura and Rian prepared to leave Arvin. She would return to her people, ready to speak for humanity in the Vereen Council. He would continue his work repairing communications and ensuring that the fragile peace endured. But before they parted, she turned to him once more, her luminous eyes meeting his. You saw me, she said softly. Not as an enemy, but as a being worthy of respect. Ryan smiled. And you showed me what peace looks like. For a long moment, they simply stood there, taking in the silence and the light. The war was over, the raiders defeated, and the future stretched out before them, wide and uncertain, but filled with possibility. Then, without words, they walked together toward the waiting ships. The fleets were ready, The world was watching, and two civilizations had begun to understand each other. What had started as a crash, as a chance encounter, had grown into something far greater, a bridge between humanity and the Varine, built on trust, courage, and the simplest yet most profound truth: kindness can change worlds. As the ships lifted into the sky, carrying Laura back to her people and Rian to the human outpost, the twin moons of Arven shone down upon the plains. The dust sparkled faintly, like tiny stars scattered across the ground, and Ryan knew that this moment, their survival, their unity, and the beginning of peace ways would be remembered for generations to come. The dawn had arrived. Two worlds once separated by fear and war were now bound by hope. And in the quiet between the stars, a human whispered once more softly to the Varine princess beside him, "Beautiful." Laura looked at him and smiled. This time it was a smile filled with trust, gratitude, and the promise of tomorrow.